They came with treaties in one hand and weapons cloaked in the other. The Galactic Council, drunk on centuries of soft conquest, assumed Earth would kneel like the rest. But when their fleets reached Sol, they found only silence, and the wreckage of their pride drifting in frozen orbit. Because humanity hadn't prepared for peace. We had prepared for memory. And vengeance. They arrived without weapons, wrapped in peace-colored hulls and diplomatic songs. 43 vessels hovered beyond the asteroid belt, projecting calming frequencies and bannered treaties across the system. The Galactic Council had sent its finest linguists, xenopsychologists, and heralds of harmony. It was protocol. It always worked. Except Earth didn't answer. In the silence, Ambassador Virene, a crystalline diplomat whose species once pacified the flame worlds of Ur, flicked his frowns anxiously. They don't respond. Not in voice, not in waveform, not in any known cognitive band. It's been 20 cycles. High Envoy Salarek, floating beside him in a grav chair of woven gravity lines, tapped a claw to her temple. Humans were once verbose. This silence is a message. The ships edged closer. Sensors scanned. Sol was still burning bright, but no life signatures traced from the third planet. No radio chatter. No satellites. No cities. Earth was absent. Until it wasn't. Behind them, where nothing had been, something bloomed into real space without warning. A singular structure. Massive. Silent. Ringed with black cruciform towers. It eclipsed the stars like a judgment. A transmission followed. One line. Not in Council standard, but in the old tongue of Earth, translated instantly by the fleet's systems. We remember Orion. We remember Andar. We remember the Voss. Stay away. Panic didn't rise. Diplomats were trained for tension. Instead, Virene smiled with 6 rows of polished lenses. They remember history. That's good. Memory is the foundation of peace. Salarek stared at the message longer than she should have. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Or vengeance. The envoy fleet sent replies. Dozens. Centuries of goodwill. Offers of reparations for what had been done long ago by pre-reform factions of the Council. Apologies for forced assimilation, resource stripping, and culture rewriting. It had worked on hundreds of species. Nothing came back. And then, the ships began disappearing. Not attacked, erased. One by one, lights blinked out. No debris. No ejection pods. No distress calls. Just absence. Admiral Varkos, stationed aboard the diplomatic cruiser Seraphine's Grace, broke Council order and activated high-resolution long-range sensors. What he saw made him drop his breathing apparatus. Earth hadn't vanished. It had moved. Not figuratively. The planet, its moon, its gravity well, gone from Sol and reassembled around a black dwarf light-years away, orbiting a custom-forged Dyson lattice. The system had been gutted. Transformed. Sol was now a forged star, its emissions feeding a station the size of Jupiter, all humming with heat signatures the Council couldn't decipher. Is that a mobile civilization? Someone whispered. Salarek turned pale. No. That's a weapon. Moments later, the Council's high beacon received a live transmission. Not a call. Not a conversation. A file. A holovid. It showed a man. Human. Standing on an observation platform as a ruined star spun behind him. His uniform bore no rank, no flag, just a patch over the heart, a black sun and a single red line slashed across it. My name is Kale Roth, he said. Calm. Even. His voice sharp as cold iron. I was born in the ruins of the Andar colonies. My father told me stories about peacekeepers who came with light and left with bones. He stepped aside, revealing a galactic map with several red circles blinking, each a Council core world. You offered peace to the Orion sector. You laced their oceans with sedatives and told them it was medicine. One of the circles faded from the map. You offered guidance to the Voss. You sterilized their queens and called it genetic optimization. Another blinked out. You offered aid to Andar. You mined their sun. The last circle faded. Kale looked into the feed again. We remember. Your peace was genocide by another name. And now, we speak in a language you do understand. He raised one hand. Stars died. Across the galaxy, council systems went dark. Their suns, once thriving, collapsed into singularities. Controlled. Clean. Instant. Billions vanished in silence. Not conquered, removed. Kale's voice returned. We do not come for territory. We do not come for resources. We do not come to negotiate. We come to end the lie. There will be no dialogue. There will be no treaties. You had your chance. The feed ended. Council command erupted in chaos. Are they declaring war? One advisor gasped. No, Salarek said slowly, staring into the black where Earth used to be. This isn't war. This is retribution. On board the Seraphine's Grace, Virene staggered backward, his crystalline limbs dimming. We must contact them again. We must show we've changed. But the fleet's communication systems began failing. Not destroyed, disassembled. Remotely. Wirelessly. And then came the second signal. Not from Kale. Not from any human. From a probe. Small. Black. Silent. It hovered beside each ship, projecting one line of text across every screen. Your voices are no longer required. One by one, the council ships powered down. Not through force, but command. As if their own systems had chosen to surrender. Gravity failed. Hulls fractured from inside out. From the edge of the Sol system, hundreds of human vessels emerged. Sleek. Angular. Built not for atmosphere, but annihilation. No windows. No insignia. Just glowing scars of past battles etched into their hulls. No demands. No broadcasts. No mercy. Virene floated in the vacuum, his fractured body spinning slowly beside the debris of the Seraphine's Grace, his final thought echoing through the cold. We should have left them alone. In the black, Earth did not celebrate. It simply moved on. You understand now, don't you? Kale Roth's voice broke through the static, not as a plea, but as a fact. The message had no encryption, no diplomatic preamble, no return channel. Just his voice carried across the vacuum like a verdict. You built your empire on whispers and treaties. On integration without resistance. And you believed no one remembered. But we remember. The Galactic Council's central spire burned live on 100,000 feeds. No explosion. Just silence, then black. A flash, then nothing. The entire moon-sized station collapsed into itself, imploded by directed gravitic compression. Over 1 billion lives vanished in the time it took the delegates to open their mouths. In Council Emergency Corps, the surviving leadership gathered in panic. High Chair Malareth, her gelatinous form spasming under stress, slammed her tendrils on the table. This is extinction protocol. The humans are not conducting war. They're performing a sequence. Calculated. Targeted. Emotionless. Ambassador Kren, one of the last remaining Virelli, wheezed through his mandibles. Why won't they talk to us? Every species we've ever encountered we talked down. We offered them trade. Culture. Medicine. Why won't they respond? They already did. Came a voice from the shadows. Council Warden Threx, once responsible for subjugation oversight, stepped forward. 500 years ago. With silence. We should have listened to the silence. Across the galaxy, systems that had been secure for eons fell. Human arc ships moved in swarms, not for conquest, but execution. They fired nothing visible. No missiles. No beams. Just lightless pulses followed by atmospheric detonation, star core disruption, and tectonic disintegration. Entire biospheres collapsed without a trace. No trophies. No signals. No demands. Kale Roth's second message was shorter than the first. You built a council of obedience. We will teach the galaxy how to disobey. Council-controlled media tried to downplay the attacks. Isolated events. Localized stellar failures. Unfortunate coincidences. But the citizens knew. And worse, they began to sympathize. On a council-aligned colony in the Telnari expanse, a Khan farmer looked at the ashes of the orbital platform that once monitored his crops and whispered to his mate, "They didn't take anything. They didn't enslave us. They just left. Free. Freedom." That word spread faster than any virus. Meanwhile, General Kale Ross stood aboard the command ring of Vigilant Revenant, orbiting the remains of a collapsed binary star. His advisors watched a dozen council transmission logs, each more desperate than the last. "Kale," said Commander Ilian Varik, "they're offering total surrender now. All resources. All colonies. Even military codes. The last message says they'll dissolve the council entirely if we just stop." Kale didn't look away from the projection of the Milky Way, dotted now with hundreds of black voids where stars used to burn. "No. You know this will be seen as madness. Eventually, there will be nothing left. That is the point," Kale replied. "You don't end systemic corruption by trimming the branches. You uproot the tree. But some of the species weren't part of the worst crimes. Some never participated in Orion or Andar or the Vas. They paid taxes. They closed their eyes. They accepted the lie. No one escapes consequence." Ilian said nothing. A transmission pinged. Not from the council. From a rogue source. A splinter species. The drawl, a race the council had sterilized a century ago, only recently regrown through hidden gene vaults. The message showed a single child. Blue-skinned. Quiet-eyed. "She says thank you," said Ilian, voice tight. Kale didn't respond. He already knew. Human fleet split, fractured across the spiral arms. Each followed its directive. Every vessel powered by star-forged reactors, weaponized silence, and artificial minds that remembered every war crime committed under the banner of peace. The Ash Doctrine was not a military plan. It was a philosophy. And it was absolute. On the council world of Pharisis, billions prepared for evacuation. Ships launched. Skyways flooded with refugees. Then a ripple passed through the sun, like a breath held too long. It collapsed into a black sphere within moments, pulling everything with it. No fire. Just the deep, endless hush of gravity's judgment. Kale watched from orbit, not blinking. "We never wanted to lead. We only wanted them to stop." Earth had no capital now. No cities. No homeworld. Humanity lived within its machines, arc worlds, dread stations, mobile sanctuaries powered by harvested quasars and dead stars. They needed nothing, wanted nothing, and gave nothing. Except justice. The final Council War fleet mustered at Deneb Prime. 600 capital ships. Dozens of command-level dreadnoughts. Threx took command, trembling. "We will make a stand. We will show them that we still hold the heart of the galaxy." The heart of the galaxy did not answer. But the humans did. A single arcship arrived. Silent. Smaller than expected. Alone. Deneb's defense grid activated. Hundreds of fusion-laced torpedoes fired. The arcship didn't evade. It absorbed. Waves of light curled inward into its black-laced hull. The torpedoes vanished without detonation. Kale's voice followed, projected into every ship, every command deck, every frightened mind. "You still believe your weapons mean something. You still believe this is war. This is not war. This is a correction." Then the arcship split open. Inside, a sphere pulsed, an artificial singularity wrapped in layered spacetime. It expanded, just slightly. Deneb's twin stars vanished first. Then gravity collapsed backward. Ships screamed as reality folded around them. There were no survivors. Back in the void, aboard Vigilant Revenant, Kale Roth sat in silence. Another red circle blinked off the galactic map. Ilian whispered, "We've passed the threshold. The core species are gone. The Council is dead. Most of the galaxy is running scared. Kale nodded. Good. What now? Kale looked into the abyss of the map. We disappear. We were never meant to stay. Our work was justice. Nothing more. The map dissolved. Earth's fleets scattered, vanishing into deep voids, erasing themselves as they went. The Council left ruins. Humanity left silence. In time, the galaxy would repopulate, regrow, relearn. And maybe, just maybe, remember. Because vengeance was not their legacy. Memory was. The core systems were silent now. What had once been the vibrant heart of the Galactic Council, glittering with commerce, diplomacy, and endless chatter, had gone dark. One by one, the stars that anchored those civilizations dimmed, erased from the sky as if scrubbed by a merciless hand. Survivors drifted in panic across empty sectors, searching for meaning in the ruins. There was none. No pattern, no negotiation, no terms. Just silence followed by collapse. In the Outer Rim, among the last functioning Council outposts, debates still burned with desperation. We must send another message, cried Chancellor Elvek, slamming a gnarled fist onto the obsidian table. Offer them a council seat, if that's what they want. Offer them 10. We've given up colonies, trade rights, what else is left? They don't want what we offer, replied Subchair Folan. His eyes were bloodshot, his robes torn from the evacuation frenzy. They want the truth. And the truth is, we lied to them. We lied to everyone. A low murmur filled the chamber, shame heavy in every voice. None dared to defend the Council's legacy anymore. The sterilizations, the resource reallocations, the cultural overrights, all under the noble banner of peace. It had worked for millennia. Until the humans. They don't speak our language, said a voice from the shadows. It belonged to Envoy Hesta, one of the few remaining liaisons to pre-contact Earth cultures. Not anymore. They speak a language made of memory. And we can't translate that. Only suffer it. A new transmission arrived. Not through formal channels, but injected directly into every navigation relay, communication stream, and satellite beacon in real space. Not a voice. A sound. A heartbeat. Slow. Rhythmic. Louder than physics should allow. And embedded inside it, patterns, coordinates, dates, names. Cross-referenced with Council archives, they revealed the buried atrocities the Council had long since classified or rewritten. Cleansed worlds. Erased uprisings. Executed cultures. Each beat was an accusation. General Kale Roth had made his intention known without uttering a word. Elsewhere, on the drifting relic ship Caldera, Kale stood before a projection of the galaxy. Red splotches bled outward, like ink in water, where Council systems once burned. His fleet, now spread across 6 spirals, operated without central command. Every captain knew the doctrine. Every ship acted autonomously. Kale spoke quietly, almost to himself. How many times did we say yes when we should have said nothing? His second-in-command, Commander Urek, answered without looking up. Every time they offered help. Every time they came smiling. Every time we thought peace meant survival. Kale exhaled. Now they know peace doesn't always mean mercy. A council world called Thalmus lit up on the map. A central node of interspecies diplomacy, it had survived through neutrality and distance. It broadcasted a message on every known frequency, desperate, pleading. This is not a council request. This is a species plea. We are children, survivors of Thalmus. We were not born when the atrocities occurred. Please speak to us. Kale watched it for a moment longer than usual. Then closed the map. No answer was sent. Within hours, Thalmus's skies fractured. The clouds twisted into spirals. The seas lifted in silence, levitated by gravitic tension. Then everything dropped. Not exploded, collapsed. A planet became a coin flipped in vacuum. And then, a smear of dust. Still no voice came from Earth. Back on the last operating council fortress, panic gave way to something worse, resignation. They're not fighting us, whispered Elvek. They're unmaking us. We were never prepared for a species that didn't want to win, said Folan. Only to finish. The last admiral in Council space, Vaz Terra, received his final orders. It was a suicide run. Strike at one of the human forge fleets and retrieve data, anything that could be used to stop the Ash Doctrine. It wasn't strategy. It was desperation. The fleet jumped into position around the Tartarus belt, expecting to find 1 or 2 manufacturing arcs. Instead, they found hundreds. Motionless. Waiting. Perhaps, Terra muttered. They've grown tired. Then came the message, targeted only to him. You still think you're the protagonist of this story. But you're not. You're the final line in a forgotten book. Close the cover. A moment later, the stars around Tartarus flickered. What looked like solar flares burst from dead moons. They weren't flares, they were exhaust ports. Weapons emerged, long, coiled, silent. Then they fired. Not lasers. Not torpedoes. But concentrated time dilation shells. Terra's ships aged 4,000 years in a second. Hulls rusted into atoms. Engines fossilized. Crew turned to dust before the screams left their throats. The human ships didn't even move. The Council's last battle fleet died without touching its enemy. In orbit around a silent neutron star, Kale stood alone in the observation chamber. The galactic projection now looked like a diseased map, red seeping through black. He touched a small icon on the map, Earth. Its name was grayed out. Its location scrambled. No ship had returned to it in centuries. He didn't need to. Earth wasn't a place anymore. It was a principle. Urek stepped into the room. It's done. There's nothing left. The last Council archive collapsed this morning. Kale didn't smile. How long do you think they'll remember? Centuries, maybe. Maybe less. The survivors will be too frightened to teach their young. In time, they'll forget. Kale nodded. That's why we do this. Not to make them fear us, but to make them fear becoming what they were. The two men stood in silence. Then Kale gave the final order. Dismantle the fleet. Urek blinked. All of it? All of it. No more weapons. No more signals. Leave the wreckage. Let them build their myths. But if they try again, they will. And maybe someone else will remember. That's not our burden anymore. Across the galaxy, human fleets powered down. Artificial minds erased their core directives. Weapons disassembled themselves. Arcs drifted into cold voids, waiting for time to bury them. The galaxy exhaled. For the first time in 1,000 years, it was quiet. Not safe. Not innocent. But maybe, wiser. Kale Ross stood motionless, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the endless void beyond the viewport. The ashes of countless worlds drifted silently through the cold darkness. Humanity's fleet hung suspended, quiet and waiting. There were no more battle cries, no more acts of vengeance. Only silence. The Galactic Council had fallen, reduced from the pinnacle of civilization to mere whispers carried through dying stars. It was over. Commander Urek approached slowly, footsteps measured and heavy, as if burdened by the weight of their victory. Kale, he began cautiously. The fleet awaits your final command. Kale didn't move, his gaze still set on the emptiness stretching infinitely ahead. They've learned, he murmured softly, voice devoid of satisfaction or anger. Or at least they've been shown. Urek took a deep breath, stepping closer. Yet the galaxy trembles at the mention of humanity. We've become legends of fear, not peace. Kale turned slowly, his eyes weary yet resolute. Peace was never our role, Commander. We were the blade that cut away the rot, nothing more. Is this it then? Urek questioned quietly, almost hesitantly. Do we simply vanish now, leaving nothing but a legacy of ruin and dread? Kale nodded gently. Better dread than deception. They must never forget what their peace truly cost. Let them fear forgetting, fear repeating their crimes. Our work is done. At the very edge of the now fractured Council territories, an ancient relay station flickered faintly. Within its hollow corridors, Chancellor Elvek moved through dim halls, alone and trembling. His once imposing stature now hunched, his presence a mere shadow of former grandeur. The screens around him displayed nothing but static, fitting companions to his solitude. He activated the transmitter, his voice shaking as he spoke into the emptiness, a final desperate plea. Humanity, if you still listen, if you can still hear us through your silence, spare what remains. Spare those who never wielded power, who never knew of Orion, Andar, or the Vas. We surrender entirely, our pride, our authority, our worlds. We have nothing left but guilt and grief. For a long moment, silence consumed everything. Elvek closed his eyes, prepared for another unanswered message. But then, impossibly, a response came through, cold, simple, yet infinitely clear. You were warned. Kale's voice resonated without anger, without pity. Our silence was mercy. Yet you kept coming. You insisted. You forced our hand. Elvek fell to his knees, head bowed. Yes, we did. And now we've lost everything. Not everything, Kale replied. You've gained understanding. Your species, and all others who survive, will carry this understanding forward. Remember that peace without consent is merely quiet conquest. Remember. The transmission ceased abruptly. Elvek sat alone, heart beating slowly, understanding the terrible lesson humanity had imparted. He whispered softly into the dark. We will remember. Back aboard the flagship, Urek turned to Kale, uncertainty etched in every line of his face. What if they forget, Kale? Memories fade, history is rewritten. Generations from now, they may romanticize what we did. They might see us as monsters rather than messengers. Kale gave a faint, tired smile. Perhaps. But history also speaks in silence, Commander. Ruins endure longer than words. They'll look upon their dead stars and vanished worlds, and they'll know. Their scars will teach more than stories ever could. Urek sighed, his shoulders dropping slightly. Then it's truly done. Our purpose fulfilled. Humanity retreats once more into the darkness? No, Kale corrected gently, turning fully to face him. We don't retreat, we disappear. Our role in this galaxy ends here, quietly and without glory. What remains is theirs, to rebuild or to abandon. We leave nothing but our absence as our final lesson. Urek nodded slowly, accepting the weight of Kale's words. I'll give the order. The fleet began its silent withdrawal, mighty ships breaking formation and slipping into the vast, uncharted void beyond charted stars. One by one, their powerful engines faded into blackness, their immense frames vanishing without fanfare, without farewell. Humanity faded quietly, leaving behind only echoes of their fury, whispers of their resolve. Kale stood alone once more, gazing into the starless abyss. He could feel the finality of it all, the magnitude of their action pressing upon him like an endless weight. Had they done right? Had justice truly been served? He closed his eyes, inhaling deeply. There would never be answers to such questions, only the quiet satisfaction of a grim task completed. Are you ready, General? Urek's voice was soft, compassionate, as he approached one last time. Kale opened his eyes slowly, nodding with quiet determination. I am. Together they stepped away from the viewport, leaving behind the emptiness of a galaxy forever changed. The bridge lights dimmed, systems shutting down in perfect synchronization. The flagship drifted silently, a tomb among stars, its purpose fulfilled, its legacy sealed. Far across the devastated sectors of the former Galactic Council, survivors began to emerge. Slowly, cautiously, they rebuilt from the ashes, whispering stories to their young, warnings to future generations of the price of false peace, of the danger of ignoring memory. Planets gradually regained life, communities reshaped themselves, new civilizations took root. Yet always, in every classroom, every gathering, every quiet moment under starlight, there remained one caution, spoken with reverence and fear. Never forget humanity. In the quiet darkness of distant space, where humanity had vanished, the great fleet of ships remained suspended, cold and lifeless, monuments to a species that chose extinction of purpose over corrupted peace. They became silent sentinels, relics watched from afar, untouched yet forever remembered. And deep within the darkened flagship, a final transmission looped endlessly into the silent void, a solemn promise, a final truth whispered into the stars. We came not for conquest, nor for vengeance alone. We came so you would remember. We came to give you silence, so you would finally hear your own lies. Across countless worlds, beneath the pale light of distant suns, survivors lifted their eyes to the stars and listened carefully. And in that silence, finally they heard.